wanted to play that. It just sounded cool. What's up, everybody? This is Artists of the Goods podcast, hosted by me, Johnny Walker, Johnny Walker Art. Tonight we have Tony Suzio from Detroit, a sign painter out of Detroit, Michigan. Welcome. Thank you for doing this with me on a short notice. Because I
Yeah,
was like a couple days like, hey, are you in? You want to do this? And you're like, yes,
yeah.
definitely.
I mean,
It was awesome. I'm like, thank you.
yeah, no problem. I mean, fortunately, I'm writing my own schedule right now, so you know, most evenings that I'm usually painting, it was pretty easy to say yes to this.
Well, and so before we get started, I know you've been hitting it hard ever since Brush Masters.
Yeah,
So if you can let everybody know kind of like a background, who
yeah,
you are, how you got started, where you're from, that kind of thing.
right on. I mean, I've been pretty much artistic as long as I've been doodling on homework through middle school and high school, and I took art classes, and then I went to college at first for graphic design. Um, I took a few classes and kind of I got out of it because I realized like a lot of the work was freelance, and there didn't seem like a lot of security. And at a younger age, I was like, I don't like that. So I changed majors and kind of stopped doing art for a while. Went full circle into a new degree, got a job in like doing CAD work, and it was just like in a cubicle, kind of dry, paid great, but it was just like not stimulating. Um, and so I ended up leaving that job and going back to work at the restaurant that I went to while I was like paying my way through school. I worked as a server
Hmm.
and a bartender. So I jumped ship at Ford, and then I went back to the restaurant. And when I did that, I was like, I'm going to hit reset. What do I know how to do? What do I like doing? And I've always been artistic, and people have always, I started off doing shoes for people. I would do
Uh-huh.
like custom shoes, and I would just do them with
Yes.
Sharpies and like draw people's names and like graffiti on,
Hmm.
the back of their homework. And, everybody's, you should do something with this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I could never figure out a good way to monetize it. I didn't know how many people really want to pay for custom shoes, blah, blah, blah. But
What?
letter form and like graffiti was really the beginning of it all. I never did graffiti, but I always
Hmm.
found it very fascinating. And so, I mean, that kind of drew me towards like letters. And then when I found this world of sign painting, kind of towards like the end of my stint in my CAD job, I was like, this is amazing. This is something that I could probably explore. And so I went back to the restaurant part time, which worked out great because it's a very flexible schedule and lifestyle
Hmm.
there. And I was able to kind of like just kind of slowly wade into the water of this new industry that I was coming about. And I was like, this seems like a great way to, have like a little bit of a mechanical mind, a little bit of a creative mind. I felt like it was well suited for somebody with a lifestyle like mine. So
What year did this all like that kind of take place? That transition.
probably 2018.
Okay.
When I quit, I was working at Ford for a while, and it was, like I said, it was 4-ish years. And my buddies wanted to go to Alaska, and they were like, "You should come with us, 5 weeks,
Uh-huh.
blah blah blah." I'm like, "I can't do that. I don't have the vacation time."
Uh-huh.
And I was like, you know what? I don't love this job anyways. So I ended up quitting, doing a fair amount of traveling. And then when I got back, it was the beginning of 2018. So then kind of settled my feet, got going again because I depleted all of my funds. So I just focused on waiting tables for like 6 months. And then I just kind of started looking at like YouTube videos on, like if you search sign painting on YouTube, like the first two videos that come up, I don't know the artist's name, but he's like that biker looking guy with the like sleeveless vest, and he like does like orange lettering on a black painted background. And he has like lang nickel brushes, but he does like a couple tutorials, and I remember watching those and just being like, oh, this is amazing, like this is totally what I need to get into. So as 2018 kind of progressed, I just kind of found my way through like tutorials and how to's, and I was looking up like books to buy online. Uh-oh, where'd you go, Johnny? Well, if everybody else is still watching, he said his internet went out, so hopefully he's back in a moment.
We're back.
Awesome.
Okay, what happened? That when I told you, I was like, man, I got all my internet. I ran a line. It's janky.
Yeah.
Well, it went out, so
Oh.
I'm back. So I got to the part where were you still talking then?
Yeah, I mean, I
Because
just taught, and eventually
perfect.
it went black and dropped
Yeah,
off. I
okay,
was like,
so the part you cut out was like you had like 5 weeks of vacation, or you didn't. Sorry, you didn't have 5 weeks of vacation, but your buddies wanted to go to Alaska.
yeah, and I knew I wasn't really happy where I was, so I just said, if not now, then when? So I just jumped, and I knew that when I got back, I could just go back to working at the restaurant. They
Mm-hmm.
always, it's like an open door there. And so that's what I did. I went on vacation, spent all my money traveling, came back, waited tables, which was great. It worked around my painting schedule, perfectly. If I had to take a Tuesday off to go do something somewhere, I can. It was easier than jumping back into like a 9 to 5 and trying to
Mm-hmm.
hustle at night. So it really worked out as a beneficial tool in like the whole learning process because the part-time schedule was infinitely flexible.
What So in 2018, you started this sign painting thing. When you got the brush masters, which I do remember, I think it was late at night. I think you got there late at night. And we're like, this motorcycle comes in. We're like, who the heck is this guy? And you're like, hey, I think you're like, am I in the right spot?
Yeah,
Like,
it
is
was
this the
like
right area? And it was like
it
a
was
couple of us out.
not very well lit up.
Yeah, it was like dark out, and we're having a good time, and we're like, who the heck is this? And you're like, yeah, I think I'm in the right. Is this the right area, right spot?
Yeah.
Because it was awesome because like you showed up out of nowhere, and you rode a motorcycle down right
Yeah.
from Michigan.
Yep.
Oh
Yeah, it
my!
was like I don't know. I think it was like 5 or 6 hours on the road, but I mean, before I got into painting, motorcycles was all I cared about.
Uh-huh.
So it's that's like my most reliable bike. So I was like, you know what? If I'm going down to Kentucky and the weather's nice, like
Uh-huh.
I'm camping in a tent anyways.
I remember there was like you and then another guy from Michigan who rode in on some like.
Yeah, that's I think
Start with the J.
Jay Atlee pinstripes or
Yeah,
something.
he rode down on like a.
Like a Honda 350.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, and
It
he's like,
took
"Oh
him
yeah, I just
forever.
took back roads the whole way." I'm like, "What the hell?"
Well, I remember because your helmet, you did your helmet down there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know you started like you just started like in 2018 doing this.
Yeah.
So now it's like you, I mean you definitely put in your time, but it seemed like you kind of had a handle on it, like you knew what was going on, because I remember your helmet and I think you did the gold leaf
Yeah.
around around the helmet.
Yeah,
Like you
just like a,
spun
it was
leaf.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, I was basically just kind of trying to mash up a couple of things that they were teaching us, like using tape as like a, like a margin. So it was like
Uh-huh.
a 1/4 inch up from the bottom rubber trim, and then a 1/4 inch piece of tape, and then another one, and then I peeled the middle one back to give you that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I had never done gold leaf before, so I had somebody walking me through it. I can't remember what his name was. That was like, I feel like it started with a P, but he was helping me out, and it was just like a really good experience all around. But it was stuff that I've always wanted to do to like my motorcycle tanks and my helmets, but I've never known how. I didn't know anything about any of this stuff. So finally getting into it, I was like, oh my God, this is how people put down stripes like that. And, it finally like connected the dots. Cause
Everything connected. Was it hard getting started? Like where you're at, is there a lot of guys around that do this? And then kind of where did you go? Like, who did you look to figure this all out?
That's actually a really, really awesome story because Taylor, that was at Brushmasters, basically he helped create the snowball. I bothered a couple of guys from the Detroit area on Instagram a lot, and Taylor was one of them, and Detroit sign painters, Zach Warman was another one. And so I'd reach out to him all the time and just like, hey, I got questions, and he was always super responsive, super willing to help. And so I bugged him for a while, like, hey, if you needed an extra set of hands on the job, I'm in the area. And he didn't for a while, but then it came to be that he needed help, so he hits me up after about a year of us being in conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "Hey, I need a set of hands on the job. Do you want to come work with me this summer?" I was like, "Yeah,
Well, yeah.
absolutely." So that was a really awesome thing because I was learning how to do panels in my basement and use lettering quills and
Mm-hmm.
the basic stuff. But the first wall job that I ever got was at a barber shop, and I showed up and I'm standing on like a little giant with like none of the right equipment, and I had a lettering quill in my hand, and I'm on like a mason, you know what I mean, like a cement
Was
wall.
that the white wall? I was looking through your stuff. That's the white wall, like the side of the building.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a buddy of mine I've known for a long time, and he found me when I first started my page, and he
Mm-hmm.
goes, "You do wall signs?" I'm like, "I can learn," So he let me take a stab at it, but I'll never forget standing on the ladder with like a size 8 Mac in my hand trying to paint on bricks,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, "I'm gonna be here all day." I was like, what am I doing wrong here?" So
Uh-huh.
I messaged Zach, like, "Hey, what's the problem?" And he's like, "Oh my God," he's like, "Go to Home Depot, buy a 1-inch Wooster." He's like, but so working with him showed me, the ins and outs of doing wall jobs
Uh-huh.
and like, a lot larger scale stuff. We've done some crazy huge jobs that I felt like I kind of cheated because I got to just jump in on stuff that
Uh-huh.
probably took him years to get.
Well, and that's kind of where I've came into is like I try to for me I kind of overthink and I'm like, oh man, I want to know everything before I start this. Like I do not want to make a mistake.
Yeah,
And I've learned I've just got to jump in it, and that's the only way I'm going to learn is just by doing it.
exactly. And I mean, when I first started taking interest in it, I bought a couple books, and I would read them here and there, and I would like, I'd kind of take notes. But I bought a starter kit, like a brush and one can of one shot,
Uh huh.
and didn't open it for like 2 weeks because I was too nervous. I didn't know
Uh
what to
huh.
do with it. And I just read these books and like, oh, I should practice like this. And I tell my buddy, I'm getting into it. I started reading these books. He goes,
Uh huh.
"Tony, you can read books all day, but until you start using that paintbrush, like you're not going to learn a thing, man."
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he was right because it's just hours in the saddle, and so it just kind of got to the point where it was like every night I'd come home and I would just kind of like do a like. I had this piece of glass that I would just practice on and just layer the paint on top of, last
I
night.
is that the piece that you paint like you were practicing letters? It was
Yeah,
just that thing is cool looking though.
I
When
want
you've
to
got
keep it around. I think it'd
layers
be,
and layers.
yeah,
And one thing I like, so like I saw that, and then I see this like you do something really cool. Like I want to do this. Like I want to get my own tiny spot in the middle of nowhere and go and get away and just
yeah,
paint. And I
yeah,
saw that like you had like this. It was a while ago, or
yeah.
maybe it was a year or something ago. But it was like you went out to like this small like not a cabin, but it was like out in the middle of nowhere
We call it.
spot.
I mean, I call that it's a shanty at
Yeah.
best. It's 10 feet by 7 feet, and to give you a quick synopsis, my like 6 friends of mine all went in on property together
Uh
up
huh.
north, and so it's like a bunch of little cabins all kind of spread out.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I hadn't built like a real cabin yet, so my little shanty was pretty much all I had for shelter. But I got laid off when the pandemic hit because I was bartending,
Uh huh.
and so I was like, well, if I'm not going to be working, then why am I going to hang out in Southeast Michigan?
Uh huh.
So I basically spent most of the quarantine up north. And so
Like.
I figured if I'm going to be up here this long, might as well bring my books that I never make time to read,
Uh
bring
huh.
my paint box, and like start doing all those like little projects that I never get around to.
I
And
mean,
so, it
in there,
was
you
kind
had a
of,
wood burner, right? Right. I mean, it was like right there.
oh yeah,
Like,
it was cooking the side of my leg. It was not comfortable.
but I thought that was so cool. Like, you have that opportunity to just kind of like get out there, be away
It's,
from, like, be away from everybody,
yeah,
and just totally focus on what you want to do.
it was
Uh,
really, really fortunate that I got to spend that much time at a place that's, that important to me. Cause it's without the occasional trip up there. Like if I don't get up there at least once a month, I start to get like crabby,
huh.
I've created a place that like I love nothing more than going up to my land now. And it's like, it's great, but I start to feel like a pouty child when I can't get
Uh
up
huh.
there, and
What
I
was
kick and scream when I have to leave.
did you add? Because I saw, did you add on to it like other like
Yeah,
sides? I saw like it looked like it was an open area, like you could put some things in and.
I actually paid an Amish company like halfway up north
Uh huh.
that builds like sheds. on like 4x4 skids, and they just come out with a truck and deliver them. So I had one built, just I want it this color, windows
Hmm.
here, insulate the floor, blah, 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 place the order, and then they just come out when it's done and drop it on a
Drop
gravel
it off,
pad.
and then you
So
hooked up. You put the wood burner in it and all that.
yeah, so
Oh,
like
that's
then
so
the
cool.
inside I finished out, like
Uh
just
huh.
like vinyl flooring and a wood burner, futon, some old cabinets from my parents' basement. So it was cool.
Yeah,
But
it does look cool. I was
it's a
like, oh
little,
man,
it's a
that'd be
little
like,
a little house in the woods now. It's like
yeah,
it's a fully furnished getaway.
that you should run your own thing up there.
I know
Oh
that's what
yeah,
everybody's like. Build a lean-to, make your
yeah,
shop up there. I'm like, why
yeah,
not, dude? I could just mail signs home.
yeah. That'd be cool. What
Right.
so like you got into sign painting. You do this. You like what I the one thing I've noticed, you do a lot of stuff by hand. Like you you draw things out and like you grid it out and it there it didn't look like there's like you don't have a plot or nothing like that. Like you are when you like do a sign, you're drawing it each letter out.
Sometimes, if I
For
can,
me,
if it makes sense, um, I try to. I think it's good to know, the basis for your basic letter forms. Everything you read when you get into this is like, you got to drill like like the Gothic
yeah,
alphabet is like those brush strokes, those letter forms is like the basis for everything. And I think a lot of people skip that, and it's easy to because you're not in a union. They don't make you
uh-huh,
do charts for
yeah,
weeks and weeks and months. You can do whatever you want. So there's
hmm,
like it's up to you to learn that stuff. And I went almost 2 years without knowing anything about it, and it was actually at Brushmasters. I think the second time um, they did their sign painting thing. It was Taylor and Signs of Power and
uh-huh,
Jim McShay, and they did their bit, and then they were like, okay, everybody go practice. And so I was like, I suck at block letters, and I'm just going to practice out in front of everyone and hope someone can help me. And so
uh-huh,
Leanne Barker came up behind me, and she was like, let me show you a couple things. And so she showed me like a little tidbit of how to build letters properly. And I was like, oh my God, there's a science to this.
and
So this year she was doing online classes and basically said like, you'll learn how to do this in my class. So I was like, take my money, like teach me how to do this. And since taking her like intro to sign writing class, it's Brush and Pen Studio
okay,
on Instagram. But she does a really awesome course, and you get like a 45-page PDF all in color you can print out for your own workbook, and it shows you every single letter of the alphabet, how to build it right. um, it's really cool. So that, I mean, since I've taken that class, I try to challenge myself to like keep myself sharp and keep getting better. I could go on my computer because I'm pretty savvy with. I
uh-huh,
have Photoshop. I have a graphic background, um, and certain fonts look close enough to like the classic sign painter letters
hmm.
that you could probably get away with plotting stuff most of the time. But just to kind of challenge myself and have fun with it and kind of make sure it looks hand done.
What I like that the one you did was like you did it on the spot.
Yeah,
Like and that you I mean that was like you did like the traditional sign painter way
yeah,
and did it on right there. Like you
right.
drew it and did it, and so that's I'm trying to pick that up. I'll check her out. 1 second, let me grab because I think I know the tool. 1 second.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm back. So that process, like I'm trying to get down. So I'm gonna sign up. So like I'm trying to use this. You can see where I have it marked as
yeah,
I'm moving around doing letters. I'm like, gosh, but it's that making sure everything is like spaced and
yeah,
everything's the correct size and
yeah.
that's
'Cause
I'm not good
it's
at that.
Well, I mean, it's got to take tons and tons of practice because I still struggle. I struggle immensely with it still. Like, yeah, I did that job on the spot, but it took me hours to sketch. I
Uh
think it took me pretty much 1 hour per sketch to do 3 words per side.
huh.
So, like a real sign writer would probably do it like chicken scratch, just like a single line between the margins,
Uh huh.
and know how to fill those
And
in with
know
like,
how it goes. Yeah.
yeah, I build it like a block letter.
And it's only gonna get quicker. Like you're gonna get quicker and quicker at this.
Right. And so that's kind of why I always try to like, okay, if you can, just do it by hand. And I don't have a big plotter at home. So it's either I'm printing 8.5 by 11 pieces and tiling
Hmm.
them all together, or I got to drive to FedEx and have them print it.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I got a 3-foot roll of white paper. I could just, lay it out on the ping pong table and, do this
Do it
6-foot
yourself.
pattern by hand.
What so if someone's starting out, and we were talking earlier about the like the Facebook pages, the help groups and all that.
Yeah.
Um if someone came to you and they're like, "Hey, I want to be a sign painter. Like,
Right.
I think it's cool. I watched the documentary. I've done like I just bought like what you said. I bought a can of paint and I bought this brush.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do?
Right.
What advice do you have for someone like that? That's just like kind of like you were in the beginning. Like, what do I do? What's your advice for that new person?
Just get involved. It's social media was like, I would say, one of the largest influences that just like it it puts you on the fast track if you like just start finding all the like look up hashtags, look up artists, and then like people that they follow, and just like every time a suggested sign painting page comes up on my Instagram, I pretty much hit follow because I'm like,
Uh-huh.
let's just, every time I see a new post, I learn something. And it's those Facebook pages, I can't speak enough for how invaluable those are. These are 40-year veterans
Hmm.
that use Facebook. They don't use Instagram most of the time. Like, that generation is on Facebook, but they're
Hmm.
not always on Instagram. So I've learned countless pages worth of data. Like, hey, I have this panel. I don't know how to prep it. What kind of process should I follow? What products should I use? Where can I find them?
Hmm.
And people are happy to share. I know it wasn't always like that, but I've found, this community to me is, you know, one of the best I've found as far as supporting one another
Hmm.
and helping each other get up the ladder.
There's a really good one also. Gosh, it's a sign one, and it's like I can't even think of the name. Distress signs or something. Where I mean,
Yeah,
have you
I
you
think.
on that one? Where they, I
Yeah,
mean, these guys break it down on how
right.
to make ghost signs
Yeah,
like that. You can Google that all day, and you're like, all you're gonna see is pictures. But there are some guys out there who will break it down for you on
yeah.
how to make a ghost sign. Like, and they look really cool, and they got some really good tips. They tell you paint
Hmm.
everything, what to do.
I
What
learned.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just Mike Myers was doing live videos every Wednesday or something for a
I
little
was
bit this
trying to
year.
record those as he was going
I
on
know.
Instagram.
I wish I had like a screen capture
Yeah.
or something because I was writing
Yep.
furiously in a notebook, and I guess this is the kind of stuff that, like, if you really want it, you're gonna pay attention.
Yeah.
I was like a madman, like trying to keep up with his water-based
Uh-huh.
day where he was doing window splash and stuff, and he's also doing distressed signs at the same time. He's like a bull in a china shop, man.
Uh-huh.
Like, he's just all over the place, and I
Is
can't
it the
write
one where
fast enough.
he was like inside, walked outside, went on the door or the window?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, yep.
and he did like the Elmer's glue, and like they dry at different rates, so that's how you get that crackle effect. And I was like, these are the little things that are like, they're so simple once you
Hmm.
learn them, but without the advice of someone who knows.
Yeah, exactly. What's uh what's a common question that you usually get on when people are asking you things on Instagram?
Um, do you have to clear coat over it? Is one of the
Uh-huh.
one of the biggest things. Whenever I do something for people, are like, do I need to clear it once you give it to me? I'm like, I hope not. They advertise that
That's
these
a
paints are supposed to
uh-huh.
be, pretty
That's a
durable, but you can. I mean, but it's just an extra step, and it's blah
uh-huh.
blah blah. But that's a common one. I don't know. Usually, a lot of questions about cost, but um,
What's like I saw you got a new box too.
yeah,
What's and I ask everybody like
yeah,
what's in your box? Like what thing I always think of that movie like what's in the box?
oh god, I hate that
Uh,
movie.
what's in the that's all I want to say now. Like what's in the box? Like
Yeah,
like you like your must-haves like you have in your paint box that you use all the time that you probably need and if you didn't have it in there you're like well shoot I can't
right.
start this today.
Well, brush oil for one. I hate when I forget brush oil, because then at the end of the job you're like, like, I can clean my brushes, but it's like a ticking
Uh-huh.
time bomb, hoping those things don't dry up by the time you
Uh-huh.
get home and find some motor oil to dip in. Um, but definitely that. My little level, I have like a 18-inch level,
Hmm.
and that's got to be there because just for, it saves me when I forget my 4-foot one. Um, Trying to think of like absolute musts. My Stabilo pencils. I got that cantilever box, and I love it because it opens up, and it's like I had the 4-ounce plastic bottles. Like, even though I was buying one shot, but I was still putting it into plastic
Hmm.
bottles, and I had mix and match with like Alpha and one shot, and but the 4-ounce bottles fit perfectly in the bottom of my box, so I could have 4 ounces of pretty much every color in my palette on
Everything
me.
fits in there.
Yeah, and it's just one thing, but
Hmm.
as my paint collection has grown, now I actually have a separate case filled with 8 or
Just paint
16
only.
ounce. Yeah. So it fits like 30 square plastic bottles, so I can have a fair amount of colors on me, which is nice. But also the dividers, and it keeps everything organized.
Hmm.
When normally it's like I just threw everything in the top of the box and it was just like a total mess.
And I think that's what I kind of want to go to. Right now I have like the machinist's toolbox or whatever, and I cut one side out of it, drawers, so I can put some bigger can things in there.
Yeah.
Uh, like a little baby food jar of oil, some cups,
Yep.
a little bit of like a little thing of reducer because
Yeah.
I just use mineral spirits, but a little thing of reducer, like a just in case, and paints, whatever paints I have on the bottom. My one thing is like clothespins. Like I have to have like a couple clothespins because I'll throw my brushes, and I'll clothespin them to like the mason jars.
Oh, so you can hang it in the
Yeah,
spirit?
and I've been using that, and
Yeah.
like that's my one thing I always like I have
Yeah.
to have, and paper
I,
towels.
yeah. That one I've been I worked a job today where I was like, "Hey, do you have Dixie cups?" Cuz Tony forgot his. But
Speaking of Dixie cups, and I know I cannot be the only one. Are you having issues with Dixie cups where everything's leaking? Like they're just like for
oh,
some
like
they don't hold like they used to. Like I
um
have to double them up.
yeah, I've been told that you should double them up. I don't always. I mean, I've had a pretty good run with it. I notice
Hmm.
if you leave it in there, maybe for a whole day, or if there's a lot of reducer in it, then yeah, it might start to break through on the bottom, or if you stir too aggressively
Hmm.
with a popsicle stick, maybe. And sometimes I end up doubling it up because the outside gets messy from when
Hmm.
your drips over. But no, I don't really have too much trouble. I've been told not to buy Dixie cups with the wax liner.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I yeah.
Um,
I don't even
and
touch
they
them.
don't really advertise that on the packaging. It's not
No.
like, so I was kind of confused the first time I went, and I was like, I don't want to buy 300 of the wrong one,
Uh huh.
you know?
I'm with you. I keep looking at the same thing. I'm like, gosh, I better look. I just got some too, and they're sitting behind me. Like, did I get the? I have to open them up
Yeah, I always just
and
take my
check.
fingernail and scratch the
Yeah.
inside, see if anything comes off, because that would suck. I've had a couple paint jobs where there was like something in the paint, and like the whole time you're fighting it, and you're just getting little fish eyes, and
Uh
it's
huh.
like, man, is that frustrating?
So I saw yeah, that's why I saw like you are. I mean, you are painting. It's like you were like you're doing schools, walls, murals, like big murals,
Well,
uh, glass storefronts, and I saw the number panels, and I heard those are a hot item in certain districts, like housing districts, where they all want that same look that you just did with the gold and the black, like that old school
yeah,
style numbers. Can you talk about like how you approach things, like how you approach these jobs, how you like? I mean, because you're starting to stack these things up. Like
I
you
know
look constantly busy.
I feel like I am. It's
Yeah.
good. I've had coworkers at the restaurant, asking, "Are you going to come back?" And I'm like,
Uh huh.
I don't. I mean, I for a little stability maybe, but I don't know if I have time anymore.
Hmm.
Which is the greatest problem in the world to have. If
And you're still doing it in the winter. Like you were busting out things in the winter time.
I'm
So
trying to stay
yeah.
busy, yeah. And fortunately, a lot of my requests are like personal panels for someone's garage, someone's
Hmm.
workshop, someone's it's a lot of like personal, quick turnover signs. But it keeps me busy on the days where I'm inside and at
Hmm.
home. But a lot of the bigger jobs that I mean, honestly, the restaurant was great. I've met the numbers you saw today, and that glass window that I've done
Hmm.
for him as well. He's a lawyer that I waited on for a couple of
Oh,
years
that's
at the
cool.
restaurant, and we just always BS'd about what else I do. And he goes, "Well, you could paint my business window." I was like,
Yep.
"Okay." So that was the first reverse glass job I ever had,
Hmm.
and I was terrified. Um, and actually, just to kind of get in the groove of painting backwards, because when you're painting casual letters, but now it's the opposite direction, and the flick at the end spins the other way, and it's like it breaks your
You
brain.
just I haven't done that yet. You just blew my mind
Give it a
because
shot because it's not, it's
it
tricky.
sucks. I'm left-handed, so uh, I paint backwards this way anyway. Well, I guess if you're looking on screen, it probably looks the right way. But
Yeah,
instead of
you go
left
right
to
to
right,
left.
I go right to left,
Yeah,
and it's still you don't know how bad I want to go left to right, and I just know it. I will
yeah, you got to
drag.
write words
Yeah,
backwards.
I will drag my hand. I will drag everything. I'll mess it all up
Do
if
you
I
use a
go.
stick?
Uh, I'll either use a stick or I'll post off the wall with my
Yeah.
right hand,
Okay.
depending on how far or how high up I am. But
Yeah.
it gets to the point where I'm like, gosh, I really wish I was right-handed.
Yeah, I saw someone post on the the newbie sign painters asking a question about like things like tips and tricks and advice for lefties.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just reading some of the stuff, and I'm like, man, you know, I always laugh at the left-handed brushes joke, but just imagining trying to like retrain your brain from going, the opposite side. It's
Yeah,
already hard
because
enough, but to work in your benefit, you probably never look like you're running out of room at the end of a sentence. It's all
that's
backward.
true. That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's I mean, growing up, everything's left to right.
right.
And then you're like, oh man, I want to do sign painting, and you're like, this is not working. Like I'm smudging things, I'm smearing everything, I'm going, like I'm like guys, I wasn't using a stick, and I'm throwing my hand on everything,
Oh
like
yeah,
all like it's just like lead or whatever, like chalk all over and I'm losing it, and I was like, what the heck am I doing wrong?
yeah,
And it was at Brushmasters where they're like, hey, you need to start on the other side. Like
yeah,
try starting on the other side, and you still have a stencil.
Just-
So and that worked.
yeah,
It's still, but every time you're fighting it.
yep.
Like you have to approach, and it's like when I was tattooing, it was like the same thing. You have to start on a certain side, or you're gonna wipe the whole thing off.
Just dragging your hand through the
Yeah,
tattoo.
dragging your hand. Yeah. So that was like a struggle of mine. It's still a struggle. Something
Yeah,
simple like that.
I can't imagine it comes naturally because it's just going from like top right to, or I guess top left to bottom right feels so natural, but when you go top right to bottom left, it feels like and totally backwards to me.
Yeah. Oh, I can't. I'll get it down soon enough.
Right.
So when did you start like you're doing this like full time? When did you start knocking this stuff out full time? And then what kind of like are you strictly getting things from Instagram, or are you like or your
Um,
pieces that you're putting out there? That's what's bringing people to you.
I would say a lot of it comes from Instagram. Yeah. I mean, as soon as I got laid off in the spring, I kind of figured what better time to jump in because when I was working there, I always wondered like, what's it going to take for me to quit and go full time painting?
Hmm.
So the silver lining on the mess of 2020 was that I got to be a full time painter pretty much against my own will. I have an autoimmune disease, so I was a little bit nervous when they were like, you probably shouldn't be waiting tables then.
Uh huh.
So I was like, well, I'm just going to try and paint, see if I can keep my head afloat doing that. And I mean, fortunately, I currently live with my folks, so it's like my bills are low
Hmm.
and like the risk was not really that crazy. So I was like, let's see, so this year I've just been kind of focusing on, trying to keep myself busy 5 days a week with any and all paint work. And so, most of this year since March, it's been like my full time, focus.
Hmm.
And yeah. And when I'm not busy with that, I work with my mom. She paints houses.
Okay.
That keeps a brush in my hand and, you know, a little money in my pocket. That's actually, I made a shirt for
Oh, nice.
her and her partner.
That looks good.
Yeah. But,
And that's like you. So like, I don't think a lot of people realize is like, hey, like and I'm probably the same way. It's like this is what I want to do, right? And I'm working towards this. But it's like not only do you have to learn these skills, which people can,
yeah.
but you have to learn. It's like a bit. You have to learn the business side of it.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's my least favorite part.
yeah, you got to learn like, and that's a common question.
Yeah.
You know, and Albamo, shout out to him, has helped me out tremendously on that. Like when it comes to
Yeah.
like pricing things, and everybody's like, you see that too on Facebook. Like, everybody's like, how much? And they're like, we don't talk about price here. And then people start like messaging each other, like, do it like this or this.
Well,
So
it's a really,
Albamo helped me out.
yeah, it's a tough game because nobody wants to talk about it openly.
Yeah.
Um, I bought that sign pricing guide from Signcraft, which, if you sit down and run the budget, that can help kind of take the question out of it. The hardest part for me is to demand a rate that doesn't do the industry in a negative way, because
Hmm.
people say you can undercut the rest of us by running around doing like,
We always hear that. You always hear that.
yeah,
People like they post about that and they talk about that like,
yeah.
hey, you sold
And I
this for
mean,
like $10. You're like,
right. Well, it's like if you're
yeah,
doing all these freebie jobs because you're
yeah,
just an artist that wants to do art, then
yeah.
like the guys that do it for a living, people,
Hmm.
they're going to balk at their rates, not knowing that that's what the industry standard is.
Yeah.
Um, and Bamo was actually one of the ones that told me, early on, he was like, he's been a huge influence and a positive Force. I mean, everybody that I met at Brushmasters has been like infinitely helpful this entire way. Like, if going back to the way earlier question, if you want to start sign painting, get involved with a workshop as fast as you can, because the people that I've met, the network that you reach, and the stuff that you learn is like invaluable. But he was the one who told me early on, if you don't start charging more, you're never going to do this for a living. And so you have to know your worth, and you have to have the spine to ask for it. And it's like, I don't know why I empathize with everybody. Like, I need to run a charity, but it's a hard part of the business. And I'm like, I always say, like, I wish I could just be a sign painter and work for some big firm and have a comfy job and get to do this 40 hours a week. But like, unfortunately, to do it in this day and age, you got to be your own boss, which, if I can figure it all out, will probably be great. You know, you pick your spot, you write your schedule, you do what you need to do, but it does not come naturally to me.
It's gonna take. It's like that's one of those things that take time.
Yeah.
That's like I've been painting. I got a spot, and I've done a couple. Like, I just recently did a couple for them, and they're bringing me back to do their basketball court, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't done a basketball court.
Whoa.
And
that's a weird substrate, like indoor.
Yeah, indoor on a. The floor's painted already.
Is that like epoxy?
Yeah, and I'm gonna put it down on like the free throw line, and then I think there's gonna be like a logo on the side or whatever. So I'm gonna and I'm like, what? I'll do it. Like, so I just ordered some stuff like wax and grease remover, and I'm gonna.
So do you have to wash the like? I'm sure this could be a whole forum of discussion, but
yeah, I'm gonna wipe. So I worked with Albamo, City Slicker, like, these guys are helping me out too. Like,
yeah, those two actually just saved me on that pinstriping job.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys are amazing. So they're helping me out. So it's like, clean it, all this stuff, and I'm gonna clear over it with clear on that logo,
Yeah.
But they're like, no one, do not tell them they're not allowed to go on it for like a couple days. Let it let it harden and everything, and then I'm gonna clear over it. But I'm pretty excited about that because
that's a sweet gig.
I'm gonna pounce the floor. So. And I don't have any cool tools. Like, it was all gonna be by hand, right? Like
a pounce wheel.
Yeah, it's gonna be all by hand.
Hey,
so,
a lot of people do it like that their whole career.
Yeah, I'm gonna
do
that.
People got a vendetta against those electro pounces, which, after being shocked by one, I get. But
I didn't touch it at Brushmasters. I saw it and was like, oh yeah, that's my. So I got a fear of getting shocked. I hate getting shocked, and I can't handle it. So,
yeah, I wouldn't buy one of those.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, I bought this pounce wheel. I'm just gonna do this. So
you can get them in different sizes. They make big diameter ones with handles that are like, you won't cramp up as much, like a thicker wood handle.
Oh, I probably bought the smallest one. I was like,
I did too. I got the XL one that's like just a little silver stick, and the wheel's all wobbly. It works like.
I think that's the one I got. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm like, so I got that one coming up. I'm excited about that.
What do you pounce on top of, like cardboard?
I have a sheet of like cardboard that, like, from a shipping thing, like, came in. It's just a big flat piece.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna lay that. Actually, the table that this is set up on.
Yeah.
The cardboard will fit on that, and I got a couple of sheets of those so I can switch them out. And
yeah,
because that's the only. Yeah, I don't have anything.
Well, I don't know how much room you're working with, but one of the guys that told me very early on, found me on Instagram, would just shoot me a bunch of tips and advice. Hey, I see you're struggling with this. Try this. He sent me a blueprint to build like a 4 foot by 4 foot easel, but Homosote is the top coat board, and you get that in like a 4x8 sheet. But it's basically like soundproofing board. It's like it's soft like cardboard, but doesn't. I think it works a little bit better. But I put that on my easel, and that's like, it's a dream to pounce on top of.
Actually, you shoot that over to me, like what you just told me.
Yeah.
Because I could turn this. I got an easel sitting over here.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, oh, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, totally. It's called Homosote for anybody that's watching. You can get it at like Menards, Home Depot.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just Homosote, 2 coats of like white house paint, and I drew a grid on mine so I can have like quick measurement layout shit. But
and you just throw that up, like, you can take it down too.
My easel's like 2 2x4s with a 4x4 foot frame. I mean, I tip it down off the wall sometimes to project.
Mine's like a lean-to. It just leans up on the Mine just leans up on the wall.
That's
and
what
then
mine does.
I have one set up in the garage that like lays flat.
Yep.
And then comes up comes out off the wall, and I have like two door. I don't even know what they're like, door stoppers that'll fold out. And I think they got that idea from like Kendi Sticks,
Yeah.
Kendra from,
Yeah.
and she said I saw hers. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I need to
That
do that.
sounds. I actually just inherited an old 4 foot by 8 foot easel from one of the guys I met in Detroit, Mark Casey, lifelong sign painter. He's been like one of the biggest helps I've had in my whole experience so far. He's always looking out for me, but he was clearing out, some of his old stuff. And so he was like, do you want this easel? It's got hinges on it already. It's 4x8 frame. It's got a 90-degree aluminum straight edge on the bottom. And it has that same thing underneath it where it has like an adjustable kind of a kickstand where you can like stage it.
Oh yeah.
And he bought a piece of that like corrugated sheet metal from Tractor Supply and put that down on the ground, so it gives him like 1-inch increments to set that thing down in, so it can like kind of dial in his easel.
Do you have that set up too already? Like it's
no, because there's not room at the in the current corner of the basement that I occupy. I'm waiting. We're house hunting right now, and I cannot wait. If you watch my story today, you can see.
You said you're like, I'm running out of room. I need a new studio.
Oh, I'm stepping over shit every day.
Yeah, that's like I was like that's like the dream. Like to have your own spot, like you can go to, shut the door, and that.
It's a bummer being a motorcycle enthusiast and a painter, because if I get a place with a garage, it's like, well, I got to put the bike somewhere, and those make the kind of mess that I don't really want in my paint environment. So it's
Are you painting bikes too? Are you spraying bikes, or are you just like, as I saw the one you did, and I didn't know if you sprayed that and then you were doing the flames on it?
No. So the pinstriping I did, but my buddy Toddy, Paint by Toddy on Instagram, he's from Ypsilanti, Michigan, and he does amazing paint work. So all my motorcycle buddies, they've either gone to a friend of ours who's not on social media, but he sprays cars and works at a collision shop. And then, but he does great work with all of our tins. And then Toddy does really awesome work too. So he got talking to me and was like, hey, if I do these panels on tanks and fenders and kick all my customers to you, would you outline my panels with, pinstripe? And so I was like, yeah, funnel them my way. That'd be a great partnership. Awesome. So yeah, that was my first stab at it, which is great because I've been wanting to practice pinstriping more. It's hard to make that jump. It's a totally different beast. But I've been enjoying it, and I'd like to take more jobs in that realm, and I'd like to just force myself to get better.
Are you doing shows? Like, are you going to shows and lettering on cars or bikes? And
not yet. I've never. I mean, I think it was Bomo that I was talking to that says he goes to a lot of those. Dave City Slicker, he goes to a lot of those, and they set up booths. And I'm sure it's a great way to to advertise, to network, to make some money. I haven't done it yet, unfortunately. I got invited to the Detroit Autorama to sit in the paint pit.
Yeah.
And that was a really, really awesome experience. So that's pretty much the closest that I've come to going to like SEMA or like some hot rod show. But that seems like a, kind of like a niche thing that would be the perfect venue for me to explore, because I would love to do that. Just travel. I mean, I think Corey does that too. He goes to a lot of shows.
And you got like, you're in a great area, because it's like cars. I mean,
it's the Motor City. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So you have them there.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it's coming back. From what we see, it looks like putting names on cars, motorcycles, gold wings. You could kill it on gold wings. Gold wing riders love scrolling and names.
Yeah.
But like, you're in the perfect area. And there's got to be shows like crazy.
Detroit also sits on a river, so it's like you got all these people with boats.
Oh yeah.
And then I met a guy, Marshall Knapp. He's from the Detroit area, and he does like all semi trucks, and that's like pretty much how he makes his living. And I'm like, that's a whole market in itself. You can stripe and do lettering, you could do semis all day. And that seems like, I love that. I'm driving on. You don't want to be near me when I'm on the road, because I'm staring at signs and semi trucks. And
that's
I'm like
me
snapping photos at the stop line. There's construction going on in my neighborhood right now, and there's all these concrete trucks in and out every day, and I'll be like going off to run errands, and I just come to a complete stop, and the guy's sitting in the driver's seat, and I'm just like, taking
like,
photos of his.
who painted your vehicle? That's up. I
Yeah,
was
I'm
like,
like, I'm a
who pa-
pinstriper. He's
yeah,
like, cool.
who painted your fleet? And
He
like,
doesn't
that's
care.
me. I'm always like, oh my gosh, guys. I'm like driving, like, did you guys just see that ghost sign? Oh, it's amazing. And they're like, dude, no one cares.
Yeah, everybody's like,
Like,
shut up.
exactly. Yeah, they're. I'm the same way. Especially if you go past like you're on the highway and you do see a semi truck and you're like,
Right,
who paint? Like you're trying to see who painted it, of course. Like
right.
looking for a name, and so I think it's coming back.
I think so.
You have Todd Hansen, who's been, if like you've seen, he's been painting huge rigs like by hand, like
Oh
full
yeah,
graphics that
oh
look
yeah.
like,
He's good.
yeah, like they're just they look like they don't look painted.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty sweet how he's doing it. Um, and then, I don't know if they're saved on there, but he breaks it down on how he's doing it,
Yeah.
and it's crazy,
Well,
like
the
how he does that.
you just to reiterate how awesome those Facebook pages are. I bought a bunch of striping brushes the other day and didn't know anything about them. I just bought some stuff that I've never had or seen,
Hmm.
and I bought Todd's brush. And I posted on that page, and I'm like, hey, does anybody know what the difference is? It looks kind of like a Mac striper, but like I don't really know. And Todd responded, and he broke it down in like 2 paragraphs, and he was like, here's my brush, and this is why it is. And I was like, where else can you get that?
You're
Like
gonna
the
have you
man himself just answered
yeah,
me.
have you painted with it yet?
Yeah, that's what I did that
Okay.
tank and fender with.
Yeah, and you can really get up on that brush.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I mean, if this was a brush, but you could really like. There's my camera. You can really do turns on that thing.
He said it's
That
got a steeper taper so that it's better for, curves and more
and you
intricate
can,
stuff.
yes, and
It's hard for me to reference though because I'm not that experienced of a striper. So it's like, yeah, the job went well, but I wouldn't say like I can't verify that it's like leaps and bounds better than
uh,
a blue wrap striper. But from what I hear, it's a great brush.
and so that one I like, and all my stuff's sitting in the garage. And I know it's freezing cold out there. Uh, I really like that Hanson 13. If you haven't tried it yet, the Mr. Oz's new brush, the same thing. You can really hit some tight turns on that.
Yeah,
Um, and it's like you have a blue wrap Mac that is like perfect. Like you've broken it in.
yeah.
It's where you want it. Uh, it's a great brush. It's also a great brush to start with.
That's I saw him sharing those, and it was right after I just spent like $200 on
Yeah,
Mac's website, and I was like,
it,
I'm such like a
yeah,
trigger pulling guy. I was like, I gotta buy those, but just not right now.
yeah. What are your go-to brushes?
For lettering quills, I
Hmm.
bought John King's medium length, like SKWMs, um, and they're worth every penny. I started off with the 169 Max lettering quills,
I'm
black
writing this
handles
down.
with the white tips.
Have you used
Uh,
the 179s? I think they're 179s. Are they 179s?
yeah, they got the real skinny handles, like the wood ones.
Yeah,
I
on
just bought
179s.
179s and 189s. So I think the
Which
thicker.
one's which one's maroon? Got them. Is that a one? I've been using those. It's a maroon handle.
Yeah,
Gosh, I wish I had my brushes. They're sitting upstairs. Um, those are, I like those too. But sorry, go ahead.
I just I mean I know which ones you're talking about, but I can't remember if those are like the 79s or the 179. I know that I just bought a 179 and a 189, and the difference between those is the length of the quill hair.
Hmm.
But they both had the real skinny wood handles, which I've never had one like that. And to be honest, I've only had lettering quills with metal ferrules,
Hmm. It's
and
got
I
that
always
plastic.
I always see people with those like rubber ferrule, like with the safety wire twisted at the
Yeah,
end. And I just like I wanted a brush like that. I don't know why. I just wanted to try one. They look so
they
much older and cooler.
they're super light, aren't they?
Yeah, it was like I bought a number 7 in that 179 with the small handle just
Uh huh.
because I've got 6s and 8s.
Uh huh.
Never had a 7. Bridge the gap because I use my 6 all the time, but a jump to an 8 sometimes is too big for what I'm doing. So I was like, I'll try this one out, and I love it. I think it's easier to roll in your fingers.
Hmm.
Like you can spin it more with less movement, um, but it's also a little harder to handle. I kind of fumbled with it for the first couple times I used it.
It's because it's so thin and it's
You feel
very
like you're painting
light.
with like a toothpick.
Yeah, and the only thing, mine, I lost the plastic, that little clear plastic cracked and it popped off, and I was like, in the middle of painting, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like,
Right.
so I reached out to, I was like, of course, I was like, Elbamo, what the heck do I, of course, so I glue it back on,
Yeah.
and it still works.
Oh yeah.
But you're right. It's a real light, thin handle.
Yeah.
You're right, super easy to control.
Yeah. I like it a lot. I use it now for I don't know if you were. I painted this Kubota for this guy, and I did some block letters on his tailgate, and I used it for that job, and it was like super easy to get. Like, I mean, it's a brand new brush,
Hmm.
so it was like nice tight corners. It was going really well,
Was that
but
the one you were just painting too? I was like, oh, you
yeah,
painted the back tailgate,
I painted the
right?
tailgate like a week ago,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, and then came back yesterday to finish up. He wanted
Is
the
it
hood.
the bad boy eyes?
Dude, he loves those
Yeah,
things, man. I've painted like 7 of those for him, like on
that's
his
awesome.
Harley fairing, at
Yeah.
his business front, on his Kubota.
Hmm.
But the guy, he's just like, he's got all these ideas, and I'm like, hey, man, just, whatever you want, I'll put it where you point.
I saw. I was like, I saw that. I was like, he's painting the bad boy eyes on this thing.
Yeah, that's like Rick's favorite thing.
What when you're going over, like, you're doing these motorcycle tanks and the fenders. You're doing his, the trail boss stuff. And are you? Is that just paint only? Are you putting clear on these things, or you're like you? I know you brought it up before. You're just like, you don't
No,
have to.
no, not usually. The only things that I clear coated, I did those garbage cans that looked like ice cream cones.
Yeah, those are really cool.
Those exploded. That was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. But I was really worried about those because of all the contact they would see.
Hmm.
So I clear coated those with like 3 or 4 coats of just like Rust-Oleum spray
Hmm.
on clear. I let the paint cure for like over a week because I didn't want it to like shrink. I've heard horror stories about
Uh huh.
people's paint crinkling up underneath clear. So I let it cure out in the sun. It was summertime. I let them sit outside for like a week in my backyard, and then 4 or 5 coats of clear. And then I did saloon doors for a tattoo shop, and I figured with everybody's keys on their belts and
Yeah.
walking through it with stuff in their hands, like I was like, those are gonna get destroyed. So I did. I actually bought One Shots Clear for that. It's like the
Uh huh.
6004, which is the intent is to restore gloss to an old sign. That's why they make that, but it's also just a high gloss protective poly.
That's what's coming in the mail. That's what's showing up tomorrow.
Is it
I got a
really?
can. Yeah, I got a can of that coming.
Yeah.
For that basketball court. What when you're painting these, are you? I know a lot of people ask these, like, are you using hardener? Or are you just using just straight paint?
I've been experimenting with some stuff. Linseed oil is a really good one for reducing your paint, and it also acts as a hardener. It slows down your dry time, but it reduces paint really nicely without killing your opacity, kind of like reducer might do. So I like to use linseed oil when I can because I think it gives your paint more time to settle down,
Hmm.
give you a nice glossy finish, and then additionally it makes it more robust when it's finished. So the only time I don't use that is when I'm doing like glass work and I have to paint like a
Uh huh.
black outline on top of like a just painted panel of red or something.
Now the
And I don't
linseed
want,
oil.
huh?
Are you? Because I mean, I'm kind of like in the same temperatures. Like, I mean, it's freaking cold here. I think it's snowing.
Yeah.
Uh, are you? Is it depending on like temperature too? With the
Um,
linseed oil?
I don't. I've not really used it in the cold yet, but I have high temp producer, low
Hmm.
temp producer, um, which I pretty much just use whatever makes sense at the time.
Hmm.
If I'm in a pinch, I use mineral spirits. But I only use hardener if I'm doing something in like an automotive application. They say
Hmm.
if you want to have if your paint's going to get cleared over, use hardener.
Hmm.
But hardener is not fun to work with. It makes your
And
paint tack up so fast.
and that I mean, I have like 2 cans of this stuff, and I'm like,
It's
I need to
expensive.
play. Yeah, I need to play around with it, and I'm like, I don't want to play around with it.
Yeah.
It's that whole, like, when you're like, you see they're telling you, like, okay, you just like dip your brush in the hardener, then go to the paint, and you're like, oh gosh, do I just ruin this?
Oh
Like,
no, I don't. I
and
don't do that. I just do like 2 drops into my
mhm.
Dixie cup and stir it in. But it makes the paint in your cup kick a lot faster. Your
Uh-huh.
brush tacks up a lot faster. You got to work the crap out of it. Um,
Are you
and I've never.
constantly cleaning your brush out
Yeah, yeah,
to
because
start back? Yeah.
it gets gross, dude. It's like you're
Hmm.
pulling mud across. You know what I mean? And I was doing my tailgate in my truck, and I had to do like an outline on some block letters. And I had my lining brush, and I was using black paint with hardener in
Hmm.
it, and like the whole thing turned into like just like a stiff
Hmm.
stick. It sucked.
Now,
So I don't love using it, but
are you using reducer? Or so, like, I know, like, everybody has their own thing, right? Like,
yeah,
and you'll read those forums or posts and stuff, and they're like, don't use this, and everybody kind of finds what works well for them. And so for me, like I reduce with mineral spirits,
Yeah.
but I might change that up and
Well,
actually use the reducer because uh, what I've been finding out is the mineral spirits has been taking out the gloss
yeah,
like
I think it's a little
completely,
bit harsher on the paint.
and it makes it come out like a matte or flat, and it's hit or miss. So I'll
Hmm.
be painting, I'll reduce it a little bit with mineral spirits, and it's hit or miss on how it looks fine on the wall.
Yeah.
It'll Everything's dry, and you'll see spots, or you'll see a huge section that's like flat black, and you're like, you've got to be kidding me.
I've not really experienced that,
Hmm.
but um, I was lucky early on. I had a client that had me come out for one job, and that was actually the first paid job I ever had. I was painting some like landscaping rocks, and he was sick of the landscaping guys blowing dust all over his patio, so he had me write, "Do not use blowers on a rock
uh,
outside." And he was like, "I went to the store, and the guy told me to get you this weird paint. It was in a yellow can. It's 16-ounce can of One Shot,
uh,
and then a whole thing of One Shot high temp reducer." I'm like, that's like $60 worth of
yeah,
material right there for
yeah.
this like piddly little paint job. And after the job, he was like, "Well, you can keep that stuff. I don't need it. I don't need it." So I just, from the beginning, I was basically using it. So I just
Hmm.
kept buying it when it would run out and
Hmm.
never really ventured into too much else.
I think I'm gonna make that switch. I mean, I
I
have
think it's I think it's
a
worth the
can of
extra
it.
money.
It's like because of this is happening, it's gonna double my time and
Yeah,
double my work because I'm gonna have to go back over it and
right. Or if
without
somebody's unhappy with it, then you got to go
exactly
back
because
and fix
it
it.
looks fine, but when that light hits it from the side, you'll
Right.
see like I've noticed there's spots in it. So I'm like, oh gosh, okay, I need to. That's why I've been carrying this little thing of reducer. I'm like, I need to start
Yeah.
using that and just
Well,
cleaning with like mineral spirits.
yeah. I actually after a fair amount of research, I try to clean all my surfaces with just rubbing alcohol,
Hmm.
like 70% whatever isopropyl,
Hmm.
which was really hard to get your hands on for a while. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
like I went to Meyer looking for it one day. I'm like, I'm gonna get paint supplies, and like walking down the aisle, and I look, and there's like the whole part of the shelf is just blown out and empty. I was like, oh yeah, pandemic.
Yeah, everybody needs rubbing alcohol.
Duh.
Yeah, they
but
bought it all up.
but I guess I was told like when prepping a panel, like clean with that because it'll dry fast and like it's not like an oil based
Hmm.
whatever. But I always keep mineral spirits on me for cleaning my brushes out. That's what I use. But yeah, I'd give the reducers a try because I kind of place faith in the people that are making the paint
Hmm.
to make a compatible product.
And that's
So
like what we're reading in these old books. Uh, the paints have changed, like the formulas have changed, and that chemistry has changed. So,
right,
what some of the things that people did, like it worked back then,
right,
isn't necessarily. I mean, it could still work, but
yeah.
of course, the paint formulas have changed, and that stuff's not really working anymore. So I'm like, okay, I got to get with times, and
Well, I mean, like you always hear about like people like there's a guy the same guy that showed me how to build that easel. Uh, he was like, yeah, I used to clean my brushes out with gasoline, and like I'd have cups of it sitting down in the
oh
basement right
yeah,
next to the furnace. I'm like, what the hell?
yeah,
Yeah,
they're like
but
people like thin them with kerosene and all this other.
turpentine, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the guy
yeah.
that Mark Casey dude always talks about like terps and terps and terps, and I'm like,
Hmm.
man, I've never even owned like, I mean, technically terps, just
Yeah,
soaking my hands in mineral spirits.
I, I think when I started, I bought a little, like a tiny, and it's back here. I bought a little tiny bottle, like Blick Art, because I was
Yeah,
like reading, trying to figure out, oh, what do I need? And I was like, I saw the same thing, like turpentine, terps. And I was like, I've never used it. It's just in this little tiny white or clear bottle.
yeah.
Same thing. There's probably so much stuff. I was like, I don't need this now.
Yeah, I mean, now I just get like the big jug of mineral spirits, like $15, and it lasts a long time.
So what's what's your go to paint? I know you said you use both. I mean, we know there's two brands out there now,
Yeah.
and it's a big back and forth. But what's your kind of go to? And then what's your go to for like when you're doing outside murals?
Um, I mean, I really I waver back and forth between Alpha and One Shot
Mm-hmm.
usually out of convenience,
Mm-hmm.
because unfortunately Alpha isn't really on shelves yet. So if you order it, you have to I have to know what job is coming, and I'll place an order and
Mm-hmm.
get it in time. But if I'm in a pinch and it's like, oh, I need a can of Ivory by tomorrow, and then I run to Blick and I just go get a One Shot can.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say like I have a very fairly mixed arsenal, and I don't really favor one over the other. I think they both work great, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't, I can't really say. I've heard a lot of people, it's like everybody's got an opinion, and this is also a topic that could be discussed at great length.
Oh yeah.
And but James is from Detroit, and he's hooked us up, he's helped us out. Zach and I, we've painted with him and his family for local businesses, and he seems like a good dude that's making his own way. But One Shot is tried and true. So,
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you really had to worry about it, this product is guaranteed, and they've been around as long as pinstriping has.
Uh-huh.
So,
It's like, and then it's also that other argument. Paint is paint. Like
right,
they both work, and they all have their goods and bads, and they all have
right,
their applications that you want to use.
yeah.
Are you using enamels on your outside projects?
So like if we do like mural work or anything large, like everything Zach and I do is usually in latex paint. We'll
Mm-hmm.
get like exterior masonry, just flat paint mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's just it's engineered to be exactly that. It's outside paint, and you go through so much of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
to do an exterior sign in oil would cost a fortune, and it happens. People do it, but for the budget economic option,
Mm-hmm.
latex paint for large exterior stuff is usually the way to go. It paints fast, it dries fast, it cleans up easy. You can get a gallon of it for $28 versus like $100.
Yeah.
So yeah, mostly when I work with Zach, I would say we mostly work in latex.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's dominantly what I've used there. But I also learned, and I don't think a lot of people, um, maybe have tried it, or I just feel like it's under the radar. But Ronin makes some really awesome stuff, and if you haven't tried their Aqua Coat line, it's a water-based enamel, high gloss, paints like an oil, dries in 10 minutes, and it's as tough as an enamel, and it cleans up with water. So
Do you have to coat over it, then once it dries?
no, I
Oh
mean
man.
I've used it on banners, because the vinyl is not oil
Mm-hmm.
enamel receptive usually. So like if you get a banner job,
Mm-hmm.
Ronin Aqua Coat, loved using it. Um, and also for doing like base coats on panels. Like if I'm doing just a background with a roller,
Mm-hmm.
I can put that paint down, and in 15 minutes I can get to painting the sign. Whereas if I do it with oil, I got to
Mm-hmm.
prep the sign the night before, let it dry overnight, then I can get to it the next day. So it has a lot of advantages, and it's super easy to clean up. But I keep a separate set of brushes, um, and yeah, I fell in love with it. But
Is that usually? I know at the Blick, in Columbus, I think they have a couple cans sitting
yeah, they do.
above, like,
Yep, it's
up.
underneath the airbrushing stuff, but above the
Yeah,
One Shot.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's like $15 a can, but it won't skin over. You'll use the entire can,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. It does gunk up a lot faster. You got to kind of wash your brush out in water every like probably 4 or 5 strokes, but it works fast. It works great. I love it, and not a lot of people talk about it. So
No, actually, I've only seen it. That's the only thing I've only seen it. I'm like, what
well,
do we use this for? And
yeah,
I'll pick some up because
yeah.
are
If
you
you're if
using
you're
it?
ever trigger happy and just hunting around Blick,
Yeah, yeah, that happens. You're like, oh,
every time I go in there, I'm always like, one can of blue. Just get one can of blue. Don't look at anything else. And then
yeah,
it's like $268
yeah. You
later.
start
I'm like,
looking. You're like, oh man. You're like, I need this can. I really want this color, so I need to
right.
get this one and this one. And like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so. What kind of panels? So this new paint thing. You're right. No one does talk about it. So you're covering. Are you using just like wood panels and like? Are you using this on a lot of stuff as like a base coat?
I'm experimenting with it. I had it. I had a weird panel the other night that didn't react very well to it. Um, so I ended up just wiping it all back and then doing it with oil. But most like MDO or MDF,
Mm-hmm.
plywood, and then that what's that? That alpha panel, that like
Mm-hmm.
poly like aluminum sheeting. That's what I use a lot of that now because I have an account with Wensco, the
Mhm.
sign producer. So it's like I go there and get a 4x8 sheet for like $55, and it's like I usually just cut my panels out of that because it's such a robust and clean and smooth and perfect substrate. You peel the
Mhm.
thing off, I clean it, scuff it with Scotch Brite, clean it again, and then paint, and it's
It's
like
good to
it's already
go.
primed and it's ready to go. But it like I said, it depends on the situation. I waver back and forth with what I
Mhm.
what I use for base coats.
Well, it's definitely
Um,
gives us more stuff to try. I'm really
yeah,
like I've only seen it, and I didn't even know because I was like I want to try painting a banner, and
yeah,
I was looking at the one shot products, and it was like you had to buy. It was like, oh, you had to buy this vinyl stuff of one shot to be able
and
to
then
put one
coat it.
shot. Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah,
I will try this out. So
yeah.
yeah, that definitely helps.
There's some stuff that's called like frog juice. I think that's supposed to
Hmm.
be like a good clear for like if you're painting on plastic or vinyl. I haven't really experimented with it, but I don't know. Somebody out there listening might know
Yeah,
something.
yeah. The one thing I wanted to bring up, because I saw you and I mean I reached out to you and I was like, oh my gosh, where did you get that book from? Is it the Joby Carter?
Yes, if you
Uh,
have 70 extra dollars, buy that book.
because that's why I was like, oh man, I got to get paid on this paint job first before I order it.
It is so full of good information, and it's so well put together. I That's the first sign book that upon buying it, I pretty much like I read a lot of it, like
Hmm.
didn't just flip through, and start to finish, like I've seen it. It's a plethora of information, awesome references, awesome tips and tricks. It breaks down the entire alphabet and like in like a Roman and a block and a thick and thin. It's really really insightful to a beginner. I would say like spend the money and enjoy it because
And
it's helpful.
it's shipping from overseas, right?
Yeah, he's from the UK,
And then
so it took a while to get here, but it was worth it.
that's what I was like. I was like, I remember we were talking about that. I sent you a
Yeah,
message.
yeah. It
Uh,
took like I don't know. It was weeks, but
does it go over like drop shadows, stuff like
oh yeah.
that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's got like fancy letters because like everything there is carnival stuff.
Hmm.
So I always think of Taylor because that's kind of how he came up,
Hmm.
and he was just like helping his family, like, and they had like they would do like trailers and like carnival stuff, and that's exactly what Joby Carter's book is like all these fancy like circus letters and like all these embellishments and like these things that are just like totally over the top, but like it would be fun to experiment with. I had someone that wanted like Western lettering the other day, and
Hmm.
I was like, well, here's like a couple of examples that like, I reference it all the time.
And there's a couple books. One second.
Yeah,
I can't. I can't remember where I picked these up at. That Joby Carter books. That's on my list. There's an old school sign painting book, and some of these like these old school books and stuff. Yes, that one. What's the one? Hot Rod Jen. She has a link on her Facebook page. If anybody, I might have brought it up before, but she has a link that it's like the archives, and
yeah.
it's free, and you can find all the old school sign painting stuff.
Wow,
It's all free.
that's on
Um,
Jen's website.
yeah, it's like Hot Rod Jen's like her painting Facebook page. She has a link there, and it breaks things down, gives you links
Wow,
on what to buy, where to go,
that's
like
awesome.
all the companies, and then there's an archives, and it breaks things down. For like lettering, I cannot remember. Is it Flying Squirrel?
Yeah,
Flying Squirrel. I might have picked this up from them. The truck lettering, like these
yeah.
little
Oh, those paper books.
the paper books, truck lettering,
That's like one of the only ones I didn't buy. I have that one.
and the speed lettering is another like quick. And when you said the Western letters, I remember seeing like Western letters in one of these, and there's so much reference material. Like these things are so invaluable.
Yeah, I another really good one that I picked up is Mike Stevens
I keep
Mastering
seeing
Layout.
that one. Yes, I keep seeing everybody talking about that.
This is like this has like advice on like the color wheel, natural layout formulas, like how to make an impactful sign. Beyond just like the fancy crap that follows. This like teaches you the basis for how to make a functional, productive, legible sign that it leads your eye through it. It does it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's a really good book, and everybody suggested it when I first got in.
gosh, whenever I know there's like so many. There's another lettering one that like her Instagram's at Kendi Sticks. Kendra recommended to me, and I started reading into, and it same thing, like breaks down lettering, like spacing and
Is it sign painting by like Ralph Gregory?
AB. Wait a minute.
Oh, the ABCs of lettering, custom
Yes,
lettering. Is that like
yes,
that cartoon guy on the front?
yep, yeah, that
Yeah,
one.
I
That one's
bought that.
pretty good too. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
think that
one's
had like
cool too. It's got a lot of stuff about like calligraphy, which is less interesting to me, but
uh
it was a lot of stuff about like hand drawn
mm-hmm.
letters. That was another one that I bought pretty early on too, and then I bought that sign painting book that goes like hand in hand with the documentary, and that was pretty insight. That was basically just like a text version of the video. But yeah, those were all really really helpful. I've still never read pretty much any one of these fully through, but
Yeah,
it's like that's a lot of material, so I just
uh
use it as a reference. Like, okay, I need to look at like that alphabet
uh
from whatever. I also have another one that's like 222 alphabets. Like, go on. It's either Signcraft's website or Signs of the Times. I think it's
mm-hmm.
Signcraft's website. Their book section. I spent like $180 one day, just
No,
like check, 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 check. Let's
this
do it
this
all.
and this.
But it's just like there's just so limited options of
Mm-hmm.
like where to obtain all this information, and all the good books have been bought up.
Yeah.
That Mark Casey guy was like, "Don't even bother looking at used bookstores in Detroit because I already got them all." I was like,
I got here. I'll this one. I think this one is on. If you go to Hot Rod Jen's Facebook page, it's the sign painting course.
"Yeah,
This one's. I think this is on there.
okay,
It's that EC Matthews.
yeah,
And I mean it breaks everything down like an actual sign painting course. I don't even know when this thing came about. Like what the 1960, 19. I think it was copyrighted. It was like 1954. But this is on there and it's free. So it's the sign painting course. And if you
wow,
look up EC Matthews, there's
yeah,
a couple books that go over this stuff. It's super helpful.
okay,
And they break things down. It's like all old school traditional. And I'll shoot that. I'll look it up and I'll shoot that thing over to you.
yeah, that'd be great."
Those links and stuff on her page.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I found myself on her YouTube channel earlier last week because I had that gas tank and fender that I striped has been sitting in my house for like 2 weeks, and I just haven't been doing it because I've been procrastinating because I've been so nervous. And so I was watching her like how to pinstripe, basically like how to palette a brush,
Oh,
and
is
it's
that
stuff
the?
that I've done and I think I know,
Uh,
but like watching it again and hearing her like kind of break down like, oh, palette farther away from the center if you want to thin out your paint and do a skinnier line or like little shit like that. And I was watching her like a 40-minute in real time painted a panel with stripes, and it like she is just like a wealth of knowledge.
is it the Eastwood? Was it like she did like an Eastwood video for them? Like it might
Like a
be that one too.
tutorial.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It might be something. I think that one. She breaks it all down too.
yeah,
But yeah, everybody's listening. There's like you can go out and you just YouTube these things.
yeah,
And everybody always says like, hey, feel free to reach out to everybody.
right,
We bring it up every time. Just like use that. Just ask the question. Like ask somebody. People are willing to help.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's been the gist of what I've seen is like everybody that I reach out to,
Hmm.
for the most part, is pretty responsive, pretty open to help, if they can, and if like. It was funny the first time someone asked me a question because I was just like, I don't know. It's like I'm the one asking the question.
Yeah,
Why are you
yeah.
asking me? Like I'm happy to be on the show, but I still feel like I'm just as much like on the noob train as anyone else. And I'm
Well, I think it's awesome.
yeah,
Like you're definitely. I mean, you're doing it. That's the thing. You are painting like every day. Like this is. I mean, you're a sign painter. Like it
yeah.
doesn't like you can say you're a newbie, all that, but you're a sign painter.
I
And
have
you're
much to
doing it.
learn, but like
Yeah.
as does everybody. But it is funny now. I finally like when someone says like, "Oh, what do you do?" I don't say bartend anymore.
Uh-huh.
Now I say like, "Oh, I have like a sign painting business," and
Uh-huh.
that feels pretty good to finally be there. And I'm hoping, when we find a house, I could go back to the restaurant to make extra money, but I'm hoping that I can just hustle enough
Keep
to,
doing this. Well, I
Yeah,
saw that piece you did, and Alabama was shown as like shop off, and I saw behind him. I was like, wait, I know I've seen that before. I was like, is like Tony Paints? I was like, the alphabet. He had it,
yeah,
he had it behind him. He's like, yeah, that's my dude.
yeah. I probably talk to Bamo and Dave once a week at
Uh,
least. And those guys have been, it was like I remember when I like first met both of them, and I was like watching. It was like 2 a.m, and Bamo was like striping on somebody's toolbox at
yeah,
Brushmasters, and I'm just like leaning over his shoulder like this like mouth breathing kid that's like, oh my god, and like, but like both of those guys were just like, took me under their wing and were like, listen, dude, this is how you do it. You got this. Like nothing but positive reinforcement
yeah.
from those dudes, and that's
Ex-
the kind of energy that like this whole scene really brings to the table. And
how it's crazy. It's like how I don't know. That's why I wanted to do this. It's like the whole thing of artists supporting artists, getting people out there, putting their work out there, talking about it, giving people the opportunity to listen, to see, but like the how close, even though everybody lives all over the freaking world
right,
away from each other, it feels like you just saw them
yeah,
like the day prior.
yeah,
And like for me, I haven't seen anybody since 2018, and it's like you build these friendships at these get-togethers, at these classes, and you talk to each other, and it's just like it seems like it's like, oh my gosh, I
yeah,
just felt like I was with you yesterday. Like
right.
you can pick it right back up.
Yep, because everybody's just so stoked to finally talk to other people that will talk shop with them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
right.
it's like
Yeah,
90% of my friends and family, like my poor girlfriend, is such a good sport. But I mean, she's super receptive, and I mean, like her and I shoot the shit about painting all the time. And it's like when I get together with like another painter, like sometimes Zach and I will hang out and like we're not working, we're just whatever, and we'll just sit there and BS about this same kind of thing, just not with
yeah.
a camera. And it's fun, but it's like there's a limited number of people in my immediate circle that I can beat to death with paint talk.
And uh, yeah, exactly. And it's like people are like, like, how can you stare at that wall for like hours, like at a time, just at the same thing? I was like, I don't. If to me, it's like therapy,
Yeah,
And when I found out, I was painting this mural, and people would stop by, like, and sit down, and just watch and start talking to me, and it was like, for some reason, they would just start like talking about things they had going on, like problems, issues, and it was weird because it was like, hey, this was like therapy for the painting's like therapy for me,
right,
but it's like for these people, it's like what something drew them in, and now they're sitting there, and now they're like, oh man, I got this going on today, and all
right.
like it was just real cool, and everybody's like, how can you just stare at the same thing for hours,
You just
and you're just painting?
you
Yeah,
lose track of it. I mean,
yeah.
that was one of the things that I liked the most about getting into this was like, what I didn't like about my last job was that I would sit at a computer and watch the clock in the bottom right corner all
Hmm.
day, and minutes on the hour I was counting. And with this, it's like this is one of the things where I lose track of what time it is. And
Exactly.
when I would be working on motorcycles and like building stuff in the garage, that would happen, and I would always say like, oh, I wish I had a job
Hmm.
where the day would fly by, and like I would run out of time and like wish that I had more. And so that happens with painting all the time, and it's like you put on some music, you get in the zone,
Yeah.
and it doesn't 3 hours will disappear.
Exactly. You're like, oh crap, I gotta go to this. I gotta have an appointment. I gotta
Yeah,
leave and go do this.
right. Most of my painting I do from probably like 3 p.m. till midnight,
Hmm.
because I run my errands during the day. I get interrupted. I have a lot more that goes on. I'm ADD. I can't focus. It takes me forever to like build steam and actually sit down and like focus on what
Uh-huh.
I'm doing. But once I get going, I like working the night shift because that's mostly when like you won't get interrupted. You
Hmm.
won't get, distracted as much. I can put my phone over there and not look at it for, whatever, and just
Hmm.
like kind of do my own thing. And then, I prefer the night shift. Yeah.
Oh man. So I'm excited. I'm ready to do this. We talked right before I turned this on. Um, I'm asking everybody the whole paint thing.
Yeah.
If you'd be in on it, It's like 10 of us. Gosh, I have to go through the list. I got already everybody so far
Yeah.
is in. If you'd
Yeah.
be interested in doing something like doing that, also,
Yeah.
and of course, I need to get it all going and set up, and it's going to be at a later date. But just like a virtual hangout
Yeah.
and everybody painting and just
That.
having fun and putting it out there for other, people to watch or tune in.
Yeah. No, I think that would be like, I mean, besides that being a really good time, that would just be, a huge exchange of,
Mhm.
hey, what brush are you using? What are you painting on? What do you,
Yeah, and I
like,
think I can
what's
have
what's
this
your
set up.
process from start to finish? You can watch 10 different people
Hmm.
do their thing, and I guarantee you're gonna learn something.
And I mean, we could easily throw phones on also, so each person can stream it on Instagram. Right now, this won't let me go through Instagram live, so this is actually on YouTube,
Okay.
and Facebook. It's at this live right now on YouTube and Facebook. Um, but I think also this will let people, you like, if we set up certain things, you can see the comments and stuff people are typing in from YouTube and
Yeah.
stuff. So it'll show where you guys will be able to answer things too as
Right.
you're going.
Do
Yeah.
you follow the Doble brothers?
Yes. Yes.
Do
Yeah.
you tune into their live shows?
I just started watching like the older, like the recording, the older ones of.
Man, they are funny. If I'm just sitting
Yeah.
at my desk, like, and it's like, they got one. It'll be like Doble brothers are going live. I'm
Yeah.
like, yep,
You gotta get, yeah.
and just leave that on in the background. But they're funny. But it's also they talk to some really really talented people that
Oh
are
yeah.
doing some really big stuff. And that's just like that's another one. If I can and I catch it, I'm always
Yeah.
tuning in.
There's really good ones. Another good one I started listening to is like the Fast Life Garage, and like they've had some painters on there, like pinstripers, airbrush guys, motorcycle
Yeah,
stuff, but uh, there's episodes with like artists and stuff on there that are really good. Just to hear kind of what someone else is doing, like how they're approaching things, how they're generating income, hitting
yeah,
up shows and kind of stuff. Yeah, that's a really good one.
yeah. That's what was that called? Fast Life Garage.
Yep, Fast Life. Yep, I'll shoot these over to you too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I should have
Yeah.
brought like a notebook or something.
Now, yeah, I'll get all this info to you, but I really do appreciate you doing this. I know, like I said, it was short notice, and you're like, yes. I was like, yes, thank you.
No,
Um,
I'm excited to be here. This
yeah,
has been fun.
and my goal is to take this, next Brushmasters show up, how it is. Everybody paint till late at night,
Oh
but
yeah,
set this up and start interviewing everybody there,
yep,
and get just document all this, all this
yeah,
cool stuff that's going on. If people want to find you, uh, you know, what's the easiest way? Your Instagram, all that stuff. So people want work, want to check you out, ask questions.
yeah.
What's the best way for them to get a hold of you and where to find you?
To get a hold of me, definitely Instagram would be the fastest. It's just Tony Paints with 2 underscores in between. Um, but I also had a buddy helping me, and we just 2 days ago finished my website, and that went live yesterday. So you can go to tonypaints.com, and I have a gallery of work on there. Contact me, like a little couple like social media links. But yeah, just tonypaints.com, Instagram, Facebook is just kind of like a trickle effect thing. Like I'll
Yeah.
just tag it on there. It's there, but it's not as good. But yeah, if you most commissions and just DM me or whatever, and that's typically where most of my communicating goes.
Nice. Well, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Everybody listening, you can. I mean, if you're watching live, it's on YouTube, um, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. All your main podcast streaming. You can find this Artists of the Goods podcast. Thank you, Tony.
thanks, Johnny.
And I'll be shooting you some messages.
Awesome, man.
Cool. Thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.